Welcome to another edition of Business Africa. I'm your host, Afolake Oiloye. The top stories this week. Congo resists U.S. push for minerals, demands local value and development in global green energy race. Tunisian biotech startup turns 5,000 tons of invasive blue crab waste into sustainable pharmaceutical-grade Chitosan. Africa embraces sustainable fertilization to boost yields, safeguard soils, and harness the potential of its vast untapped farmland. The Democratic Republic of Congo, home to most of the world's cobalt, has become the epicenter of a global tug-of-war for critical minerals as the U.S. scrambles to secure supplies for clean energy, while Kinshasa insists it won't auction its resources without guarantees of local benefit. Have a look.
The United States is facing a growing critical minerals crisis. Demand for cobalt, copper and lithium needed for electric vehicles and clean energy is soaring. Yet Washington relies heavily on imports from China, which recently imposed stringent export restrictions in response to US tariff increases on Chinese products. Africa, home to nearly a third of the world's critical mineral reserves, has been singled out as part of the solution. The Democratic Republic of Congo, which produces more than 70% of the world's cobalt, is at the heart of this debate. Earlier this year, Kinshasa considered a minerals deal with Washington as part of a wider arrangement to boost security and counter the perceived threat from neighboring Rwanda. But President Felix Tshisekedi has now drawn a red line. He says Congo will not auction its resources to the US or any other partner. Instead, Kinshasa is pushing for strategic partnerships that prioritize local value addition, infrastructure investment and community development while managing challenges such as insecurity and illicit trade in the East. With the world's clean energy future at stake, Congo now sits at the center of a global minerals chessboard. The question is, how can it transform this mineral wealth into lasting national prosperity without repeating the mistakes of the past?
To discuss these findings, Mr. Jimpe Landry, a partner in Innogens Consulting, joins us from Kinshasa. Thank you for joining us on the show. Now, in talks with the U.S., what should Congo prioritize in mineral deals?
The first thing is we need to push for more local value addition, not just raw or export, but initiatives like the Zambia DRC Battery Council initiatives that aims to build a regional battery value chain should be pushed more. We should be pushing for more of this kind of initiatives. The second thing that we need to look at is infrastructure investment or even co-investment. So, mining can't go without logistics and without energy. So the deal should integrate logistics and energy infrastructure updates. And the third thing, which is not the least among them, is to make sure that all our partners, be them US or anyone, align with our ESG agenda. So we need to make sure that we leverage these partnerships to make sure that our partners help us to have a better local wealth creation for the communities around the mining sites that are being explored.
How can President Tshisekedi allow foreign investment while keeping control over Congo's minerals and profits? So
I think part of the hundreds of millions of dollars being collected on a yearly basis on mining royalties could be used to fund exploration, to help the government have a better knowledge of what is underneath our feet and give them leverage to go beyond the 20% that is being imposed for new projects by the 2018 mining code in the RC. So having a better knowledge of our subsoil can give us that leverage to have more equity. But then that brings me to the second point, or the second layer, I think, which is more like today we have 10 to 20% ownership in mining projects, but then we shouldn't just go for this minority equity. We should also look for governance positions. We need to have a significant position as per governance, which means the state should make sure that we retain a certain level of board level control, veto rights on some strategic decisions, but also having royalties being indexed to global prices. And I think what can be the third layer to this is more around ring fencing downstream production. Because today there is kind of opaque practices as per pricing, transfer pricing is concerned. So most of the operators here, subsidiaries of international companies, and then they leverage that to reduce the royalties they can pay in DRC. So we definitely need to make sure that a certain level percentage of annual production is being processed locally or being sold through Congolese-run trading platforms.
How will global competition from China, the US, and other countries affect Congo's mineral negotiations?
So this rivalry creates negotiating leverage, but it also it fragments the risk when you have just one or two key partners. So I think the best move for DRC, if the country feels like it is very difficult for them to negotiate just themselves, I think what they can do is they can form strategic alliances, multi-country strategic alliances, like with people like Zambia or even Namibia that are both copper producers, to help them negotiate collectively, be it for infrastructure or everything else. The second thing is there is a need to diversify the buyers of the refined output. And then there is also a need to, I think, develop or even build, I would say, local consortiums that can co-invest with international players. So, I mean, as the demand for copper and copper intensifies, DRC must be thinking more like a strategic player, or I might even say a central bank of critical minerals, and not just the host country of the critical minerals.
Mr. Gyimpi, thank you so much for your time.
Bye.
On Tunisia's Mediterranean coast, two innovators are turning an ecological menace into biotech opportunity, transforming the country's invasive blue crab waste into high-value chitosan that could replace plastics in agriculture, medicine, and industry.
Tunisian company Chitosan is a biotechnology firm of a special kind. Unlike most producers, Chitosan tapped Tunisia's $100 million blue crab industry for discarded shells, supplying eco-friendly chitosan to local innovators and attracting interest from European beauty brands.
In Chitosan, we transform this waste through a simple process of 3 steps: deproteinization, demineralization, to obtain chitin, and then we do a desacetylation to obtain chitosan that is used in many industries.
The initiative transforms marine waste into therapeutic molecules.
In Tunisia, we saw that every year more than 5,000 tons of blue swimming crab byproduct are discarded, causing damage to our coasts and communities. Here in Bizert, with our unit, we are able to treat more than 3 tons every day.
Chitosan is driving innovation through research on chitosan's medical and antimicrobial uses, positioning Tunisia as a green chemistry leader in the global south. Our research on biomolecules of natural origin aims to find new therapeutic approaches, particularly against Parkinson's disease. This initiative makes it possible to valorize marine waste instead of discarding it by using it to extract molecules that can be used for therapeutic purposes. Chitosan produces chitosan with near zero pollution, certified by Tunisia's Environment Ministry and the UNEP WeMed Awards.
Africa is betting on a new generation of sustainable fertilizers to boost yields without repeating Europe's century-old mistakes of soil degradation and pollution, a shift that could turn the continent's vast farmland into a global food powerhouse. We have expert insights in the following report.
More than a century ago, Europe's agricultural revolution was driven by chemical fertilizers, but Africa was left behind. Today, fertilizer use across sub-Saharan Africa remains far below the global average. Experts warn it's too little to boost yields, yet still enough to degrade soils.
Having a new generation of ecological fertilization, we don't have to follow the path of the West of 120 years, because we know now that it leads to degraded soil, it leads to collapsing biodiversity and polluted environment. So we know now it's not the right way to follow, not the right path to follow, especially now when we we try to be care about the planet and the climate.
That's the mission of the Nutri-Afro Coalition, working with biotech firm Tikuna. Its nitrogen-fixing solution stimulates natural soil bacteria and fungi to capture nitrogen from the air, boosting growth without chemicals.
As a consequence, they grow faster, they grow bigger, they outperform when it comes to yield the chemical fertilizations, at least by 20-30%. So you also collect much more biomass. Plants have much better quality.
The challenge is access. High prices and poor distribution once doomed fertilizer campaigns. Nutri-Afro says its product matches chemical costs but performs better. Africa holds 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land. Advocates believe that with sustainable fertilization, the continent could secure its own food future and emerge as a global supplier of green-based bioproducts.
That brings us to the end of this edition of Business Africa. Thank you for watching. For more business stories and the latest updates, stay tuned to Africanews or visit us online at africanews.com. See you next time.